How can a tiny investment, barely enough to buy a computer back in the 80s, actually launch a global revolution? And how does a small team with zero connections take on the world's biggest companies and actually win? Well, today, we're diving into the incredible story of Infosys. It all starts right here with this number, $250. Seriously, in 1981, you couldn't do much with that. But for 7 engineers in Pune, India, this little loan from one of the founders' wives, well, it was everything. It was the seed for a revolution, planted in what seemed like the most unlikely soil. And somehow, that tiny seed grew into this, $80 billion. That's the peak market valuation of the company they built, from a single living room to the global stage. The journey between those two numbers, now that's the real story. So how on earth did they pull it off? Okay, so to really get how they did this, we've got to go back. We're talking early 1980s in India. And you need to forget the bustling tech hubs we know today. This was a totally different world, basically an obstacle course of red tape and limitations.
So look, the odds weren't just long, they were pretty much impossible. Just try to picture this. You're 7 engineers with a world-changing idea, but you have absolutely no connections in the West. You want to import a computer? Good luck. That could take years of paperwork. The power might just go out at any second. And the internet? Yeah, that was still a distant dream. They were literally starting from nothing, in the hardest way you can imagine.
I mean, this was a classic David versus Goliath story. On one side, you had these massive, established tech giants, but they were slow, they were expensive, and they were totally stuck in their old ways. And then, on the other side, you had Infosys, this small, nimble team with a completely radical idea. They knew they could not spend the giants, so they were going to have to outsmart them.
So how do you win a game that's completely rigged against you? Simple. You don't play by their rules. You invent a whole new game. And that is exactly what Infosys did. This was their big breakthrough moment.
This right here was their secret weapon, the global delivery model. Now, it sounds kind of complex, but the idea behind it was just brilliantly simple. Instead of flying engineers over to the US, they used these new satellite links to fly the work to the engineers in India. It's like digital teleportation for projects. All of a sudden, their location wasn't a liability anymore. It was their single biggest advantage.
But it wasn't just about location. They also figured out how to basically weaponize the clock. Their greatest hack wasn't some bit of code, it was time itself. They didn't just work cheaper, they worked faster, creating this non-stop development cycle that their competitors just couldn't keep up with.
Okay, here's the pure genius of it. And this is the play that so many other companies would copy. Imagine you're a client in New York. It's 5 p.m. You send your project needs over to India. You go home, you eat dinner, you sleep. And while you're sleeping, a whole team in Bangalore is coding, building, and solving your problem. You wake up, grab your morning coffee, and boom, the finished work is sitting right there in your inbox. It must have felt like magic. A 24-hour relay race where Infosys was always a full day ahead. But here's the thing about a great idea. It can always be copied. The founders of Infosys knew their delivery model was a game changer, but they also knew it wouldn't be their secret forever. They needed a deeper advantage, something competitors couldn't just steal. So they built their company on something much, much harder to replicate: trust. This moment? This was about so much more than money. Listing on the Nasdaq back in 1999 meant they were willingly putting themselves under the toughest financial scrutiny in the world. It was a bold statement to all their global clients. It said, "We are an open book. You can trust us." And that was a massive, massive leap in credibility. And, this wasn't an overnight thing. They systematically built that trust over years. From their very first client win to giving their own employees a piece of the company through stock options, every single decision was another brick in the foundation of their reputation. It was all about building trust, not just with clients, but with their own people. So that brings us to a really interesting question. Why on earth did the people who actually worked there start calling the company the Infosys University?
Well, the answer is pretty simple. Infosys wasn't just a place to work. It was a place to learn and to grow. They invested relentlessly in their people, offering real transparency, fair pay, and a genuine stake in the company's success. Their world-class training centers became the stuff of legend. For a whole generation of young Indians, a job at Infosys wasn't just a job. It was a ticket to the middle class, a real chance to build a better future.
So what can we all learn from this incredible story? I mean, whether you're building a company or a career or even just a side project, there are 3 really powerful lessons from the Infosys playbook that you can apply right now. First off,
Think global from day one. Even when they were this tiny company in Pune with almost no resources, their vision wasn't just to serve the local market. Nope. Their ambition was always aimed at the world stage.
Second, they didn't just overcome their limitations, they actually turned them into strengths. They were far away from their clients? Great, that just meant they could work while their clients slept. They had a lower cost base? Perfect, that allowed them to offer unbelievable value. Every single supposed weakness became a strategic advantage. And finally, they understood that the ultimate competitive advantage isn't a product or a strategy, it's your culture. Their business model opened the door, for sure, but it was their commitment to ethics and their people that built a fortress around the business, a moat that competitors just couldn't cross. In the end, what they built wasn't just a company, it was a legacy.
The Infosys story didn't just change a company. It changed an entire country's place in the global economy. It's a powerful reminder of how innovation and integrity can totally rewrite the rules. So that leaves me with one final thought for you. Which Indian tech success story inspires you the most, and why?
How can a tiny investment, barely enough to buy